I'm going to be talking about the behavior from women that I have seen during this period in time, SOAR maximum, that is provoking. And from this experience of living with somebody that I've called a friend, but at times she hasn't been one, I have come to understand the effect of the solar cycle over people more than I did before. Okay? So, welcome to Solar Seer News. This is another Park broadcast. Welcome. And as more likes appear, and as more subscribers appear, I will reopen the comments. But it's very important for me to not engage right now because I have momentum. Okay? And we are at war, physically and spiritually. And right now, I'm holding that war spiritually. But physically, it seems to be a war to survive and dealing with people that are programmed by this system, by AI, by evil spirits. So earlier today, I talked about AI psychosis. And I'm living with someone that's revealing that she's suffering from aspects of AI psychosis. But she's not taking accountability for her actions. So this is actually consistent with a lot of negative attributes of female behavior. And I am here to be a teacher. I'm not here to bash women over the head in an unnecessary fashion. Only in the necessary ways. Verbally, am I going to strike down on that unconscious evil behavior that we need to evolve beyond to save the human species. As you listen to my voice, as you listen to these podcasts, you'll hear more and more about my life. You'll hear more and more about my efforts to expose the causes and conditions of human trafficking of women, and of course now men, and how it's actually turned a lot of people against me. And so when you're dealing with supposed psychics and channelers, especially women in the modern day and age, you're dealing with a lot of negative spirits in some cases. I'm not a member of an Orthodox religion. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Christian. That doesn't make me anti-Muslim or Christian. It's just that I kind of have interest in powers of the mind and magic. Let's just put it out there. And I believe that I am becoming an avatar by helping you understand the Matrix. I'm trying to escape this slavery as a human. That's what's happening here between you and me. There's a frequency happening here. I actually have an intention here to help you as an individual break free. So as a woman, you can learn a lot from me. And I want to attract the right woman to this channel. But because of this situation, I'm also scared. I'm also concerned, about continuing to face the same issues of people that haven't grounded out that interference. So I'm at the park. The biggest piece of advice is to walk away, is to realize that you can't win the argument. We'll start there. We'll keep it simple because those basic things can get overlooked because of the ego. And I think that entities can manipulate us within our own thoughts, to respond when we're being attacked and provoked. The provoking behavior is insults, negative affirmation statements, and they act like they don't know what they're doing and they never apologize. So I'm personally in a high-stress situation during this full moon because I'm seeing like mental illness from this person that was like my best friend. And now I've gone from her being my friend to her being someone that, for a number of years, she's kind of like been almost holding like a knife, dangling a knife, over my fate. I put faith in her as far as moving down here, and it's kind of personal, not the time for my life story. So when a woman has total control over a man and a conversation, when it starts, when it ends, how long it goes on, who wins, that's spiritual attack. So that's what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing spiritual attack, and this has been going on for a couple of years. This is painful. And so I'm talking about this as I've hit 90 days without alcohol, without coffee, almost. Maybe more like 60. And no PMO. No dirty movies. No physical sexual pleasure. Just like rebuilding the proper levels of dopamine in the brain, basically. The way that it should have been the whole time, my whole life. But I wasn't raised to learn about discipline. I wasn't raised to learn about these things. I was pretty much just thrust out into the world at an early age and had to fend for myself without like real guidance in this world and what this world was all about. And then when 9/11 happened, I was already screwed up on heroin, on drugs, and then I found my way to cable access TV in 2005, and I started my show then, 20 years ago. So the reason that you're hearing me, you know, with this level of speaking ability, right, with 11 subscribers, is because they took me down from the main channel in ways that I'm not going to get into. And so that's what led to me selling my land at a loss. I used to live on my own land, made videos for 4 years. And if you want to see those videos, message me, become friends, engage with me directly, and I can show more videos of my past to build credibility with you. Because I want to build my tribe through this. And I want to help you. I have to help someone. And this is the only way that I can talk to somebody without someone being offended that I'm talking to them. I have to talk to strangers and literally pull the lever like it's Wheel of Fortune or like it's Vegas. Pull the lever, right? We're going to pull the lever on the full moon, and we're going to put out the right affirmations that the right men and women tonight are going to find this video. The women are going to evolve, and they're going to stop that aspect of themselves that starts arguments with men, especially when they're drinking, when there's solar flares and full moons. And look at like why certain people provoke when the energy is high, when it's not the best time, tell somebody they're basically a piece of shit because they're crying about, you know, Iranians dying. I've seen this pattern with women, even white women, and she's Hispanic. Looking down upon men, they have emotion for the victims of war, and this was not her personality when I met her. So I can go on and on about the signs of possession, but that would really depress me tonight at the park. But it does need to be done before, you know, I forget. You know, so I'll talk for a minute, and then we'll go more to solutions. You know, there's been a lot of experiences of her chasing me, for example, in the house where I'm running away from her insults about my feelings of compassion for the world, and she'll chase me into the bathroom. She's banged her fist on the bathroom door. Never been to a drunk take in my life. It's only since I've been living with this woman that we ended up in big-time arguments where she called the cops on me, to where I was verbalizing suicidal ideation because saying, if you don't like it here, you can leave. I was like drinking, and she's like, you can't drink in my house like I'm a 13-year-old or something, like she's my mom. You know, and so lots of arguments were instigated when I was drinking, just listening to music, coping with the trauma of what's in the news responsibly by myself, not listening to loud rock and roll music, you know, an adult at the age of 45. And she's basically jumping me and forcing an argument. And this has happened dozens to hundreds of times. And I've lived with her for 6 years. I'm making this podcast now to not only educate others about these types of things that are taking place, but to help the man and woman out there that's suffering from ignorance. There could be a woman that can listen to what I'm saying, who's stuck with an abusive man, and follow my advice. Okay? We have an argumentative nature, so don't mess with the guy when he's drunk, and don't drive him to drink. Don't drive him out of the house, you know, unless he's doing something really, really wrong. But women that are dealing with a possessed man, okay, that's putting them down for having feelings, putting the woman down for caring about the victims of war, if they may happen to end up with my channel. They can learn from what I'm discussing, even if I'm talking about a woman. With you, it could be a man or a dad. Could be your brother. Could be your piece of shit, white supremacist brother, who won't let you as a woman be free because maybe he has some Freudian thing about you being a sister. You know what I'm saying? So I care about women. I want to help women. And it really hurts when you're in a living situation where they look down upon you for talking about these things, for not making it all about them or her. And what will make her happy is if I just got on the couch and watched the big screen TV all day long. Okay? So solutions is to remove the things that are in your life that may be like fueling whatever interference is going on. So pornography, alcohol, drugs, okay, pain, suffering, those types of things, being online too much. So maybe there's a certain type of energy and misery that I have when I'm online too much. You know, they're it's not all bad with regards to living with this person. But I'm not from here, so there's energy drain, right? And because there's energy drain and I'm sad, and there's no marijuana, you know, I can fall into like a mood swing or a lower, and then it's during those moments that she'll attack me. Now I found myself going back to explaining what the problem is. So the solution is to realize that this is happening. You have to be like aware of it, that people provoke, and already be somewhat experienced at knowing how to walk away and where to go and have a strategy. Okay? Meditation, exercise, all these things help. Writing and reading, I mean, that's obvious. So as time goes on, I'll make more videos about those things. For right now, it's about making podcasts. It's about realizing that in the modern day and age, especially when you're a guest in someone else's house, when they're being hijacked by an energy, you may not be able to win the argument. You may have to let your ego loose, or tell your ego that it has to lose the battle because of the situation that it's in. So there are patterns with people provoking and starting fights, whether it be a man or a woman, regardless of the heritage. And I tuned in to another YouTube channel that I watched once in a while. Used to know the guy online at least, and don't really talk to him anymore. But he was having the same issue with a woman, right? With a woman who was having psychosis that he was camping with, who was accusing him of stealing her fentanyl because he chose to, you know, camp around and sleep with a homeless woman from Sacramento. So he's experiencing the schizophrenia. He's experiencing the psychosis, but he was posting that at the exact same time that I was dealing with this. So there are patterns, folks, where there are really strong like influences from the moon, from the geomagnetic storms, and we have an eclipse coming up. There were other things that I can tell you about, but it all had to do with who is this person, signs of a personality shift. I haven't even mentioned that, right? So signs that the person like doesn't remember certain things about you, you know, really scary. I'm also thinking about the end scene of Donald Duck, the movie from the 80s, about the evil entity that comes in and possesses someone. It is concerning. So even though I'm not orthodox anything, there is a reason why they don't dabble in magic and psychic phenomena, because of the reality of entities. So because of like, you know, what she's involved in and what she, you know, is doing online all night long with video games and reading occult texts and her involvement in chaos magic, you know, she's dealing with a lot of different spiritual stuff, and she can't handle whatever it is that I'm talking about, you know. And I basically have to go into like almost a secret society mode, to where I keep to myself those revelations that I'm reading, you know, about millions about to die in Iran, about the Middle East, you know, about to be genocided, you know. And so this is a situation where I have to pray to God with 90 days, no FAP, or almost. The idea is to cut off the source of anywhere where I may have poured gasoline on the fire, right? So perhaps this is sort of a no-FAP update also on spiritual attacks. This actually could be titled various ways. So it relates to no-FAP, spiritual attacks, living with people with psychosis, being basically in an abusive domestic violence situation where there's violent language or insults that can instigate, you know, and then learning from the experience of living with her. I don't know where it's going to go. And then providing that information to other people on the internet. And even if I die, even if something happens to where I die, now at some point I'm going to die, you know, the goal is to have a lot of information that I've learned from her, from the world, out there on the internet, on my blog, so that people can learn and evolve. And if they didn't have great parents, and if they don't have a great media, well, then I'll be their source for all things basic. You know, kind of like adulting, but the most basic things that you need to know. And there are basic things that I think that certain people need to know right now about solar flares and a lot of things. And then we need to also meditate and ground to reduce the demonic interference within ourselves during these time periods, right? So right now I'm stepping away from the screen and I'm out in nature. You know, I'm not breathing the best fresh air, but I've got myself away from Wi-Fi, which is also a conduit. Thanks for listening.